All right. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Monetizing Your Mental Capital. I'm your host, Will Christensen. This is sponsored by Stellar Labs, one of the most amazing tools around feedback and just getting started on Amazon. I have Ali, and is it? I'm going to slaughter your last name. How do we say your last name, Ali?
Alibaba.
Ali Babul. That's probably how I was going to say it, so I probably should have just gone for it. Um, Ali, tell us, why would an Amazon seller who's interested in monetizing their mental capital, why would they be interested in talking to you?
That's a great question. I think a lot of well, one, super excited to be here. Well, we've had some fun conversations along the way here, and so excited to do this. But a lot of the monetizing part of it and why people should hear from me, I've been around the block, so to speak. Perennially an entrepreneur to having my own agency for about 8 or 9 years, to now even working within the product side and looking at the software side. And so between all three of these areas, there's really a lot of nuggets to be able to unpack and understand where it comes down to that there's monetize your mental capital to do a sale, but there's monetize your mental capital as well as with an entrepreneurial mindset to be able to run in a positive capital space, right? And to monetize it that way. That how do you think about things? How do you evaluate things? And coming from that entrepreneurial mind, running an agency and working on hundreds of brands along the way here as well, to being on the software side and creating technology to power Amazon sellers, it being able to see nuggets of different sides of the world and how best that brands can utilize, whether it be an agency or it be a software platform, or even utilize the right mindset to run their business. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, right? It still is a business. It's all consuming. It feels like our hobby as well. But our brand, actually, I'm going to drop a little statement here.
I
But
like it.
our brand is not a representation of us. It's actually a separate entity. And there's an element of realization that comes with that, or a moment of realization when you actually come to that point. So it's there's a lot here, a lot to give, and a lot of my own experiences that I think that people can actually resonate with to unlocking their own mental capital to get them to the monetization point.
I love it. I love it. Ali, I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation. And I can already tell we're cut from similar cloth
Yeah.
on multiple levels here. Um, and you're over at Trellis, is that correct?
That's it. Yeah, I'm at
Awesome.
Trellis today. We help Amazon sellers across the entire demand gen side, whether it be advertising automation, dynamic pricing, content or promotions. Those are the four levers that drive your profitable growth. And our platform helps you plan, analyze, and action those in market as well.
I love it. I love it. So, Ali, first thing I want to bring up here is actually going to we were having a conversation before we started recording the episode, and Ali and I connected over ADHD. We both are. I don't know if you have an official diagnosis yet, but at least self-diagnosed.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely got the official one very recently.
Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to have the MD, sign off on that, be like, yes, all those tests you took online, for realsies. I got that diagnosis actually when I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
So I've had that sucker for 30 years. And because I've had it for 30 years, I'm sure there's some things I can share that may be interesting for you from a standpoint of like just how I've come to grips with it and how I've turned it into a superpower. So, um, for those who are listening to this, neurodiversity, which is just another word for ADHD or OCD or all of these different things that kind of show up in the world, they're a way that we bring new perspective to the world of business. And I know that there are several people. If you're interested in an amazing podcast or YouTube series, The Holderness Family, um,
Okay.
those guys have some amazing. There's a video where he like describes he wrote a song about you might have ADHD,
Oh,
and
really?
the entire song names out all of these famous people
Yeah,
who are like suspected to have had ADHD, like Albert Einstein.
definitely.
Suspected to have had ADHD, and and they kind of go through and talk about like if you leave your keys all over the place, and when you leave your keys all over the place, you've lost them. You might have ADHD. Anyway,
Yeah.
short version here, there's a lot of amazing people who are neurodiverse.
Yeah.
And so the thing I wanted to bring up here is I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, and with your specific experience, um, I've learned it for myself. I love starting projects. I love doing the hard part of projects.
Yeah.
I hate finishing them. And
That's
you were telling me about something that like resonates there on that.
Yeah, like it's it's often like a conception, right? That, ADHD, I think, growing up in let's call it the 90s there and those kind of things and where we are today is like the biggest part that both you and I have and the willingness to even have this conversation is recognizing who we are, right? Recognizing how our brain works, which is one of the biggest things that will actually unlock anything for us, right? And so having it like I know I had it all these years. Like there's no my old business partner for the agency is telling me, he's like, Ali, man, so you have ADHD. You have to just accept that. And so knowing that for all these years and actually getting the formal diagnosis is a lot makes it a lot clearer and helped me think a lot better too, right? Like and action things a lot better. And so to the example you gave, where you start a project and can't finish it, it's the exciting part is the challenge, right? And for everyone else, the example I gave to Will, I'm relatively handy. I was tearing down a wall underneath my stairs, and I was going to match the spindles and make it a much more open and aesthetic. And so I did all that. I tore down the wall, matched the spindles, cut all the wood, did everything there. It's completely done, ready to go. But for the last for 3 weeks now, it's been ready to go. And by ready to go, I mean it just needs to be painted, and primed and painted, and I'm off to the races here. But I can't bring myself to actually finish it, right? And so it's like it's this like forever pain that will just be in the back of your mind that like, I got to get this done, I got to get this done. But it's like the lowest priority, and another project that comes in that has the excitement
Yep.
is like, yeah, I'm doing this right
Yep.
now,
I hear you.
because it gives you that so much more joy. Whereas it feels mundane, like it feels boring now. I did the hard part, and I don't really care to do it.
Yeah.
Um, right?
So I love that. I wanted to ask you this question. Have you come across, there's a personality test or a, they call it the working genius. It's by Patrick
Okay.
Lencioni.
Okay.
There's a
Haven't heard of it.
test that you can take. Oh, this is going to be fun. We're gonna talk about ADHD and the working genius.
Yeah.
Um, so the working genius is basically a framework that describes a project. So how a project begins, how a project ends,
Hmm.
um, and when you do that, and for those of you who are watching this on the YouTube channel, if you're not watching on this YouTube channel, you may want to pop over to the YouTube channel because I'm going to share my screen here because
I'm in.
I gotta show you guys some of this, I
I'm
think
excited
sharing
to
my
see it.
screen
I
is going to
haven't.
be a good way to
Uh,
teach you about it and help the guys who are listening. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to showcase an app called Perplexity. Perplexity is an amazing application that has replaced Google searches for me. So it's got all sorts of interesting things that are out there.
oh,
Um,
love.
and you can see, so speaking of trauma and all of the above, if people are reading through, you can see I wrote, am I a narcissist? Like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
does that mean? Because I went in and asked those questions and it came up with amazing questions. And
yeah.
I do think I have some interesting things about myself in my self-worth. I lost my mom when I was 10 years old to breast
Mhm.
cancer. And so I see some of those tendencies. I understand a little bit more about how to deal with those and I continue on with my life. And so I love this tool. So Working Genius, you can see I literally just typed the word Working Genius and it wrote out like, here's all the benefits, here's the practical application, here's the 6 types and
Yeah.
what they mean. And then I said, no, I want the diagram. So I used 3 words to create this article or this,
This is awesome.
everything that's in here, right? So the
Yeah,
3 words I used were Working Genius diagram. And it
yeah,
understood the context of what I wanted to the point where it gave us this. And this is what I wanted to bring up, was to kind of show you some of what's there. And you can see it's got some other things that it's put in there to kind of like give you some
yeah.
ideas.
This is cool.
So the first part of Working Genius is wonder. And wonder is when we see a need in the world and we wonder why it isn't fixed. How could this become better? So all projects, all companies, everything starts here with wonder. The
Yeah.
next part of working genius is invention. This is where we look at that problem that's been identified by wonder and say, wait a second, how could we solve that? And we
Yeah.
brainstorm out a whole bunch of ideas, and it's key from scratch. Like there is nobody's given us anything
Yeah.
to go with on this. We're just generating it from scratch. Then what I have found is that, and my working genius, sneak peek, is invention. One of them is invention.
Cool.
You can only have two. Here's the interesting part. You can only have two working geniuses, and then you have a working competency, and then you have a working frustration. So
Mhm.
two of these are like they give you energy, they're amazing, all of that. Two of them are kind of in the middle, so you can kind of flex around, and two of them drive you nuts. Is basically what
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
means. So for me, invention is one of my working geniuses. I come up with tons and tons of ideas. I'm kind of a broken person from this perspective because this discernment thing is actually one of my working frustrations, meaning I hate choosing which of those ideas is the right one to go. And so, of course, my other working genius is galvanizing, which is rallying everybody to take action, getting started. So you
Yeah.
can imagine how many projects I have kicked off, started, and then to finish a project, you need somebody to support you all the way through it
Yeah.
and to not only support you as you get it done, but push the idea to completion. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you can see you've got the responsive geniuses and the disruptive geniuses, and they flow back and forth. So in response to a problem,
Mm.
how could we fix that? In response to ideas, oh, let's choose the right one. In response to galvanizing, oh, let's support everybody as we get through that. And so pretty
This is cool.
powerful because every single project we get through goes through that. So if your team has a diverse group that are all associated with these different working geniuses,
Yeah.
then you can say, oh, the reason we're not completing things as easily is because we don't have anybody who likes to cross all the T's and dot all the I's.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a working frustration or competency for everybody on the team. So our
Yeah.
next hire needs to be somebody who's got a big amount of tenacity. Like tenacity
It's
is the thing we're missing.
it's such an interesting framework, right? Where like I actually love this because I think everyone has a little bit of it all, but where you over index and what actually drags you down, right? And that's it's are you able to build a team that supports your own skill set? Not only supports the skill set that you need, but rather the way you work and the way you think,
You got
which
it.
is always something that was like super like for me as well. Even like you're telling me this and I'm applying this to, like all the teams I've ever built. And it's like, okay, well, I know that I always need someone beside me that will be like relentlessly pushing it through.
Yep.
And I learned that pretty early on
And
in my
and what you
entrepreneurial
just
journey.
described, relentlessly pushing it through,
Yeah,
is, in my opinion, a mix between these two individuals. Somebody
yeah,
who's willing to support. They don't need to be in the front. They
yeah,
don't need
yeah,
to they need to support with the initiative. And then on top of supporting with the initiative, they need to be really good at crossing all those T's and dotting all those I's.
yeah.
And so for what you just described to me, that's those two. So that leaves us with four for you
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
out there. I'm curious. We're gonna make a bet. Um, where there is a test that you can take. It's like 25 bucks. It's totally worth it, in my opinion.
I'm
Um,
gonna do it.
it's a good test. It's a good test. I wish I'd come up with it. I wish people would pay me 25 bucks just for the,
Yeah. Yeah,
sheer
where's your
nature of it.
affiliate link on this?
Yeah,
Uh,
I should probably get one. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so uh, as you look at that, these two are out for you. What
Yeah.
what do you think where do you think it
I
lies?
think I have a tough time between so I love asking the questions. I thoroughly enjoy asking the questions. And a lot of and that comes from even like the agency side of like really unlocking what people are looking for. But then once you have that, coupling that with like the industry of it all as well, right? And so asking the questions and then finding the opportunities and then actually getting that first leg of it off the ground. Like I love building businesses. I love it. I love building products. I love building brands, right? Like it's a lot of fun to see the opportunity, find the opportunity, and then execute on that. So wonder and invention kind of feel there for me. But
Tell me about, so do you enjoy rallying the troops?
I do. I do. I very much do. That's why the galvanizing for me also like hits home where it's
So you could be any one of you. What one of those is obviously a working competency, but the other two are going
yeah.
to be your working genius. And so I found that this is really powerful because it helps us kind of consider how to build that team and how to get through the projects. I had my wife take the test, and we
Okay.
figured out where we were weak, and things like doing the dishes. That is freaking tenacity. Like it is all
Yeah.
about like putting it in the right place, getting all the food off of it, all of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
drives me insane. I have a really hard time with that job. Getting the kids to clean their rooms drives
Yeah.
her insane. That's galvanizing. So
Yeah. Interesting.
recently we just switched. I'm in charge of like putting the laundry in and out. She's in charge of folding it because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
two different there's two different things like the galvanizing go put it in the laundry machine. I got that. I can do that.
Yeah.
The folding every last piece and putting it where it goes, I can't even touch it. And so we've started to break apart our personal projects
Yeah.
based upon our working geniuses as well.
That's it's super interesting, right? Like, because that's where that's actually very similar to myself, and I jokingly call her my roommate, but now it's fiance. So I kind of upgrade her on the status there. But I'm the same way. I will put laundry in, do laundry all day. I'll fill a dishwasher, all of that. Emptying dishwasher, bane of my existence.
That's
What
actually interesting because I now that I think about that, yes, like, and the emptying takes 15 minutes, but the loading takes 45.
exactly. Like
That is
I'll
so
start.
interesting.
I'll do that. I'll vacuum all day, but then like the Dyson's sitting there with like it full of dirt, and I won't empty it out at the end of it because I'm like, ah, it's okay. I'll just do it next time. I'll just do it next time, right? And so it's like I'll get that 80%, and the best part of Alyssa as well is like. To your point, I imagine this is part of the reason that your relationship is so successful, let's call it, as well, is because it's that other half, right? That thinks on the other side of it, pushes it in another way. And so I'm very similar in that regard. And even that, she's the one who's pushing, hey, let's go to Home Depot, let's get the paint, let's get the plaza, let's just get it done. It's not going to take long. And
I love it.
once we have it and you
I
tell
love
me
it.
what we need to buy, I'll finish it. Like she's like, I'll take care of it. I don't need you to finish it at this point.
Yeah.
But I think surrounding yourself with the right people, and whether it be on a personal front or a professional front, really stems back from like, and will like this entire conversation can only happen because we're comfortable with understanding who we are.
Yep.
And this isn't like there's no ego involved in that as well, right? It's, I accept this. I accept these are my shortcomings, and we can't be everything for our businesses. We can't be everything for the people around us. We can't be everything for our own personal relationships as well. And because when you try to, you find yourself setting up yourself with these like false expectations,
Yep.
and you're always holding yourself to this high standard that you can never hit because there's not enough time. You don't have enough mental capacity,
Yeah.
let alone the energy like to actually drive to that as well, right? So it's like,
Ali, I could not agree more. Like
yeah,
that's the direction things have to go. I want to shift the conversation just a little bit here. I want to ask you a question, and we're going to kind of dive in, and this will be an interesting episode because I'm actually going to do another recording session with you because there's a second half of the podcast that we usually go through with more time.
yeah,
We had some mic issues on this podcast episode, so we got started a little bit later. So we're going to, if you're listening to this and it feels like we were in two separate conversations or the flow changes a little bit,
yeah,
it was, and that's okay.
yeah,
It'll be solid. So the question I'm going to ask you um, is actually more of what we ask at the end of the episode.
okay.
And so our editor will have her put this part at the end. And then I'm going to go through and have you answer the things that I ask in the middle of the episode because it kind of flows
Okay.
together. So, um, what is one piece of advice you wish you had gotten early on when first starting out in e-commerce?
Oh, interesting. Interesting. That's a there's so many places that my mind goes. But one of the ones that actually kind of stands out the most, I love going with my gut reaction because I think it's normally the truest. And then the more I think about it, the deeper I'll get into like, well, there's like 10 things now. Um, but I think that getting into it, and one of the advice that people have given me was, or wish I had when I started it all was, my business is not me. It's not my identity. It's when and I think that this resonates a lot for people. And if someone asks you, right, if someone asks you like, "Hey, how are you doing?" If your first response is, business is doing well, my brand's growing, we're going there, you very much identify with your business. Whereas you are not your business, and your business is not you, but your business can succeed with you at the helm of it. And having that separation of, let's call it church and state or business and person, becomes really powerful for you to be able to have an objective lens on your business. And it's not a reflection on you. When your business is doing poorly, it's not a reflection on you. It doesn't have to be a reflection on the decisions that you've made to get there. And so, if knowing that from the beginning would have changed the emotional journey of building, whether it be I've built restaurants before, building my agency, build products, building brands. It would have changed the energy in a lot of different ways. And so that's that for me. It would have actually made things easier. Funny enough, it would have allowed me to have more of a deeper lens and a more of a critical lens towards the business, that pushed my ego out of it, that pushed
Yeah,
me out of the equation.
heard. If you could, um, and I'm gonna actually save that question for the middle section.
Okay.
Um, Tips, tricks, hacks, or books you've come across in the last year that you believe would help an Amazon seller monetize their mental capital and scale and grow.
Interesting. This is an original. This is one that's been around for a while. Um, it's you've probably heard of it before, considering uh, what you how you and I are similar. But start with why,
Start
right?
with why. I own the
Simon
book. I have
Sinek.
not read it, but I know
Okay,
the
you
basic
got to
theory.
read it. Got to read it.
Putting it
It's
on my
super.
list.
It's super powerful. I think that we get so caught up in action. We get so caught up in doing things for the what. We get so caught up in doing things for, and the how is the doing the part of it. But why we're doing it often gets buried, and we get stuck in this like kind of, it's like the hamster wheel, right? We wake up the next morning, we do it all over again. Friday comes along, and then it's the weekend. Then Monday, we do it over and over again, and you actually kind of just are running through life. And so with start with why, and part of why that's another one that I recently read again, was really kind of unlocking that for myself and saying, well, what is the reason I do everything that I do, right? And the why for you will be different than the why for your business.
Yeah,
Uh, right? And there's a delineation there. And so doing it for yourself, why am I doing this? Do I want more time? Okay, do I have the time? No. Okay, then what am I doing about that? Am I doing this for dollars, which I don't think anyone should. You need dollars. That's a fundamental basis of life. But your why shouldn't be dollars. Your why should be doing X good work, and the outcome is dollars, right? And so
I love it.
um, it's the outcome of doing good things is what gets you paid. And the outcome of doing great things is what makes it easy for you to get paid. And so why, and start with why, is all about that principle of figuring that out for yourself, but more specifically figuring out for businesses and products and everything in between. And it also helps you start understanding that what's the why behind why I created my brand? What's the
Yeah,
why I created this product and what value it brings? Then it allows you to start changing the way you approach the market and telling the story of why. Because people resonate not with what you do or how you do it, but why you do it,
love
right?
it. Love
And
it.
that's Simon Sinek, in I'd arguably a verbatim quote, in the last little bit there. But I'm a big believer in why. I'm a big believer in chasing your why, driving your decisions by your why, for your business and for yourself.
I love it. Ali, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It has been a pleasure to have you on monetizing your mental capital.
Appreciate it. Well, this is one of the fun ones. Getting into the actual way people think and the way that we think about things, because there's a lot, even learning from you throughout all this. I'm definitely going to be doing that personality test. So
Love
send
it.
over the affiliate link.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna forget to do that. Knock that out. I mean, we just talked. I own it. I own that about myself. I'm gonna forget to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, Tell me, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, Ali Babul, Alibabul, Ali at gotrellis.com as well. But happy to chat, happy to talk about these things, talk about the why. Happy to just sit here and vent and be like, I don't know what to do here. But happy to also help you grow on Amazon too. So in more ways than one, always happy to chat is the fundamental truth.
Love it. Over and out.